Hello and welcome to Freedom and Four Paws, the show where we hear inspiring stories from amazing people travelling the world and living their best life, often with their pets in tow.
From slow mads to digital nomads, house and pet sitters, expats and families with their dogs on the road. In this podcast, find out how travel can truly set you free.
We are very thrilled to have the lovely Beth on the line today, Cooper. Now, she's a fellow Australian, so that's lovely to see. And like many Australians who you talk to and meet overseas, she's a prolific traveller. She is a house sitter and she's a freedom enthusiast. We love those. Thanks for joining us today, Beth. Whereabouts are you in the world?
No, thank you for having me. I'm in London right now, cold and dreary London.
Grim, but it's one of our homes.
Yeah.
So you're a prolific traveller, Beth. What does that mean?
I think it means that I haven't yet found my second home outside of Australia. Yeah. I think that there's, a lot in the world that I want to see, and I still am searching for that next place.
Yeah.
So you're travelling by yourself, are you, Beth, at the moment?
I am, yeah. I left Australia 4 years ago by myself, and here I am still 4 years later.
Very inspiring.
When
awesome.
I think of a solo traveller, I think of somebody who's super confident, knows who they are as a person, what they like, what they dislike. I had a time once when I was younger, very green, had no idea what I was doing, and I was doing a bit of solo travelling through Singapore, and I was hopeless. I wasn't very confident. I didn't strike out conversations with the locals. I didn't know any of the language. Now I have some sort of basics, and thank goodness I have Sarah to lead me around these days. So tell us about your story so far.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that you say that, we have to be confident. I think it's definitely something that you learn in the space of traveling. I think when you start by yourself, as you said, it is like caught in the headlights, the deer in the headlights. And it is a bit of a shock. But then as you continue doing it, your confidence goes from 0 to 100 so quickly. It's insane. For myself, I started by moving to Canada. That was the first big step. That was, I'll call it a quarter life crisis. That's probably what it was. I Googled, where can Australians move to? And it said UK, it said New Zealand. And, as anyone from Australia knows, that's basically Australia 2.0, both of those places. So we decided Canada was the best bet. And I applied for the visa and it came through, and then suddenly it was very real. Suddenly you actually had to follow through with what you had done. And so I headed over there just before COVID, and unfortunately, got stuck there a little bit through COVID.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I headed the January 1st, 2020. So I had about a month before everything shut down. But, I think that helped as well in a sense, because once you can get through that, you can really get through anything, right? That's the worst. I was very fortunate, and I did hit it hard. As soon as I landed, pretty much the first focus was to look for a job. And I was very lucky in that sense that the job remained throughout COVID. It was working in the education industry. So I was just so thankful. And, I stuck it out. And then at the end of COVID, that's when I decided, I'd been stuck there. I'd been locked down in Toronto for almost 18 months. It was time to get out. It was time to go and enjoy the world and explore and see what's out there. And time for that next chapter to begin.
Beth, when you were in Canada, what were you doing for accommodation? Were you using house sitting beforehand, or how did you organise your sits?
Well, when COVID was on, I was just renting a room because obviously we were all kind of stuck there. No one was traveling. But as things started to open up, people started to leave. People started to go on holiday. And funnily enough, a lot of Australians had started to reach out and say, listen, we're going back home. We need someone to look after our pets, using Facebook community pages. And, I said, well, I like pets. I walk dogs. I can do this. It's just in my neighborhood. So I started doing that, and I built up a small kind of collection of people in my neighborhood who I was sitting for quite regularly. And then, my mum said, you could do this a little bit more. You could probably do this a little bit further than just 2 streets over. And me being the firstborn, very stubborn, female that I am, said, "No, Mum, I'm not going to listen to you. That's the worst idea you've ever had." And of course, I packed up my bags and I started looking for sits outside of Canada. And then it started progressing from there. It was very quickly that it progressed to almost, well, full time. But yeah, it was exciting for sure.
That's amazing. And did house sitting take you around Canada a little bit before you've ventured outside of North America?
Yeah, it definitely did. I was able to go to the neighboring provinces. I was able to go to Banff as well, which was beautiful. That's, I think, a bucket list for a lot of people. So I was able to explore, but then very quickly it ventured out to America and to South America, and then obviously over to Europe.
Wow.
Oh, that's so exciting. Now, in some of our interactions via email, when we were talking online as well, it came across really strongly that you're passionate about inspiring other people to, take to the road, to travel and to explore house sitting, and especially to inspire women to do this. Tell us a little bit about what's behind that, and how have you come to really want to get women to do this?
Yeah, I think, from a young age, women especially get told a lot of times that we can't do it without maybe someone else. We face a lot of barriers in our life every day, whether it be workplace, personal life, social life, everything. And it can kind of, I guess, put you back a little bit and think, or make you second guess the steps that you do take to get to where you want to be, right? And I think by going out of your shell and trying something that really puts you out there as a female and pushes those boundaries away, it's fantastic because you start to realize that you can do other things. You start to realize that it's not just limited to traveling. I have that confidence now in my workplace, in my friendships, in my relationship, wherever it may be. It's really that first stepping stone because you are put in a position that is so unique and so different and so out of your comfort zone, right? By traveling, you might be going somewhere with, as you said, a language barrier, a cultural barrier, a social barrier, and you've achieved that. And then you can really achieve anything.
Yes,
so I'm very passionate about my friends, my family, everyone I love in the women's sphere going out and doing what they want to do. Yeah.
So Beth, was there a timeline from start to finish where you went from being a shy sort of girl to right, I can do this by myself, I can travel the world by myself, I'm really confident, I can mix in different circles, I can learn the language, I can immerse myself. How long did it take for when you felt really confident in your own abilities to travel solo?
Yeah, I think, Canada was a good stepping stone, but again, it was a little bit of a smoother, easier transition because it was, same language, and Canada is a lot of Australians as well. We all love going out there.
Wherever.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I think that really boosted my confidence, I actually went backpacking around Mexico for a month.
Oh, wow.
For my very first time ever, being by myself, being in a very foreign country. And I think once you've been in a shared minibus on the streets of Mexico, you can really achieve anything. But after that, it was just like, I can do it. It was having those doubts. And as soon as you put yourself in that position, you realize that it might seem like a big, unachievable, unattainable task and kind of out of this planet to experience. But once you do it and, you take one bite of an elephant at a time, it's done, right? And the confidence that comes from that is just out of this world.
Absolutely. And I really love that you use the word achieved, and you've used it a few times, and we've used that as well. And it can be little moments, can't it? Like, I don't know, applying for a job and getting it, or realizing, we remember we were on the tube in London and all of a sudden it had the, epiphany. Oh my God, we know how to get from one side of London to the other. And it does,
Exactly.
It feels like an achievement because it is an achievement, and you're a bigger, more awesome person for doing it. What do you do for work in a lot of the places that you're traveling to? Like, are you settling in the UK for a little bit, or?
So I'm very fortunate to work for a remote company. I work in the tech field. So I'm very lucky that I can take that with me as kind of my baseline as I travel. I supplement a little bit as well with doing some music teaching as well. I was a musician back in Australia, so I do that a little bit freelance here and there. But it's definitely, for me, a very fortunate experience, because I know a lot of people who have this lifestyle focus more so on doing work exchanges or work placements, but I have that solid income that comes in while I travel.
That's perfect. Do you have any advice for people who have the same potential as you possibly, but don't quite know how to step out of the hamster wheel of staying in one place? Like, how can you pitch a remote role or find one?
Yeah, definitely. There's plenty out there. Absolutely. And I think it's really about having conversations with employers about how you work best and what you can bring to the role while remote working. For myself, I said, I work best having that work-life balance. And so without that, I'm not going to be able to succeed as well, just sitting in an office 9 to 5. I'll probably get burnt out. I probably won't end up staying. And having that really open conversation with them, I think they prefer, rather than being forced into, as you said, the hamster wheel of the 9 to 5 and sitting in traffic for an hour. I take less vacation days, I take less sick days because I just don't feel the need to, right? Exactly. It's that balance. And especially, being a younger worker, the environment is changing. And so I think a lot of businesses are more open to how they can integrate young people into the workforce and how it works best for them. So definitely have those open conversations. And there's lots of great websites to find remote work as well and flexible jobs. So use the internet. It's a great resource and it's there.
Excellent.
Beth, I'm sure there's still a lot of girls out there who are still daunted by the idea of traveling solo, especially through countries like Mexico and South America. There must be a lot of benefits for solo travel. I'm assuming you can be a little bit selfish. You don't have to worry about arguing with your partner, or if you're in a group, some people want to go somewhere in the morning, some might want to go in the afternoon, whereas you might want to go now. It must be cost effective. You're only buying one meal. If you're taking a family, you might be buying 3 or 4 meals for children. What are some of the benefits you found as a solo traveler?
Basically everything you described there, for sure. The greatest benefit is the greatest benefit is doing what you want when you want. And I will emphasize that over and over again. If you're a morning person and you love getting up and going for a walk on the beach or doing some exercise in the morning, you can do that without having to worry about someone else and what they want to do. And if they want to sleep in the morning, you can do the activities that you enjoy, whether it be something, like going to a gallery or maybe something a little bit more adventurous. The cost effective, you're working within your own budget. You're not having to worry about someone else's budget as well, and how you can fit your activities around that. Often I find traveling solo, there is some perks with meeting the locals, and I've been on many a flight where a flight attendant is very lovely and, gives me a little bit of extra snacks or puts me in a hotel if a flight's cancelled because I'm by myself. So there's definitely some benefits of being solo and having, other people's support around you.
Sure. And in terms of house and pet sitting, so we often have, and I think you're on our Facebook group about house and pet sitting, there's often comments around how people who are traveling on their own feel like they're at a disadvantage compared with people like us who are traveling as a pair. What's been your experience, and how do you set yourself apart from other people who are applying for house sits around the world? What's your experience as a solo traveler as applying for house and pet sits?
Yeah, I don't think it's a disadvantage at all. I can see why it may be for some locations if they're regional or for safety reasons you need 2 people. But if anything, I do think it's an advantage. I think there's a lot of people who need house sitters who are similar in their lifestyle, where it might be them by themselves, or they're maybe a little bit younger and just live with even housemates and need someone solo to come and sit for them. And so that's a really great market to tap into. Also, just being solo, it's a lot easier to communicate with the person you're sitting for. It's just you're just having that conversation when they're away with sending photos. You don't have to worry about, someone else's flight being missed or another person in your duo not getting on a flight or getting stuck at a customs or anything. There's so many things that can occur in this lifestyle. but I think it's just about, really being open and honest and showing up with your references and just being as good a candidate as anyone else, and it won't be a disadvantage.
Yeah, perfect advice. Love that.
And we found Beth, that house sitting has become quite competitive. You'll find a nice sit somewhere in the world and you go to the toilet, grab a coffee, come back. All of a sudden, there's like 5 to 10 people who've already submitted their applications. How do you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. It is very competitive. Even I face it every single day when I look for sits. I think being very honest in your application, I always make sure that something is tailored a little bit to the person I'm applying for, whether it be something specific about their pet, how you can handle that, your experience specifically related to that animal. Tell a little bit about yourself as well. You want that person to know who you are and what you bring to the table. As bad as it is to say, you are selling yourself essentially.
Yes, it's a job interview.
It's a job interview. If someone's looking for a house sitter, they have 5 to 15 people in front of them. You want to sell yourself as the best applicant for this role. So don't be afraid to put your experience, what you offer, what you bring to the table into that application.
Yep.
So how long have you been traveling for now, Beth? And how many countries you've been to?
I think it's just been about 18 months now, full time. Countries in the last year alone, I think it was about 14 or 15 countries.
Oh, that's
so
brilliant.
It's been a great experience. Yeah, I've
That
loved
leads
it.
into our next question. What's your most memorable sit and why? I know it's very hard, but see if you can narrow it down to one.
Yeah.
There's so many. I had to think about this so hard. Definitely, I think one of the most memorable experiences I had, and this is specifically as a sitter, it was within my first, I think, month of sitting, and I was in Canada, and I was looking after a very gorgeous, cute little black kitten, very small, gets on the counters, very cheeky. And one day I was working and I realized, there's no cat around me. And that's very odd for a kitten who's usually at your side 24/7. So I started looking and I started doing the usual, cat hiding place searches, and they were on a high-rise building. And so I was thinking, I've left the door open, I've left a window open. It's that panic of, you've lost your passport, you've lost your toddler in the shopping center, the dread, the sinking feeling. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to call them and I've lost their kitten and I'm going to have to wander the streets of Toronto. So I was looking, I was hunting and severely panicking, I would say almost to the point of tears. And then I walked into the bedroom, and as I walked into the bedroom, they had 2 black cushions on the bed. Oh. And if you can imagine, in between the black cushions, I see a little pair of green eyes open up.
The little
and this
darling.
kitten had fallen asleep in between these cushions for 4 or 5 hours while I was pulling my hair out trying to find it, none the wiser. So I took a photo and I sent to the owners. I said, crisis averted. I found the cat. And they were like, oh, that's a new hiding spot. Ever since then, I don't think I've ever had a panic moment like that. But as a house sitter, you will have that moment. You will have that moment.
Oh, my God. We had one little dog once that we were looking after in London, actually. And I hadn't had I think you were still working, and I'd gone to this sit early, and they'd actually they'd already gone on the holidays and they left the key out and everything. So we hadn't met them and we hadn't met the pet. So I let myself in and, said hello to this little dog, and he was really beautiful, but you can tell he's kind of like, hey.
Who's the random boy?
You. But this massive storm came over, and I think they'd left a note somewhere saying that he did get scared of storms, and they lived in this like really beautiful 3-story house in, where was it? The big park, a nice area anyway, in North London. And anyway, we were looking, you came home eventually, and I'm like, I can't find the dog. And we were looking all over the place, under the beds and everything. And he'd found his way into the laundry and like hidden himself behind the laundry basket because he was scared of a storm that came over. And so we eventually found him. I'm like, how did he get out? Like all the doors.
Yeah.
But started to have that same panic. It's like, I can't have lost this dog already. I've only been here for 2 hours.
That's one
and it sticks in your head.
Oh.
Yeah.
God.
You always remember it.
Now, maybe recently you've seen a couple of threads on the Facebook group, and we've seen it in media as well. There's been some, unfortunately, negative stories about house sitting in the media and on these threads, which does surprise us because we feel like it's a wonderful way of life.
We've only had positive experiences.
Yeah, we've only had positive experiences, and we feel like you see it like that as well. But yeah, what's your response to some of that? Is it the wrong way to be looking at it? Yeah, what are people missing by looking at the negative, do you think?
Yeah, I do see it a lot, and I've definitely seen it more recently on social media and the media, as you've said. I think it comes down to both parties, both the sitter and the person you're sitting for, into how you experience this. And I think that's where it can go negatively. Obviously, as you said, I love it. I've only had positive experience. It's been great, and I rave about it to everyone. Yes. But I do also think that you have to keep in mind, and I say this to anyone who's considering it, it is a job. You are there looking after someone's home. You're doing a paid service in an exchange method, so for free. So you do have to treat it like such. I think sometimes people come at it with the mindset of it's a free Airbnb, or on the other way, it's free work. It's a work co-op and I don't have to pay them.
You're totally right. Yep.
Yeah, which I think, you do have responsibilities. Exactly. You do have responsibilities. You do have tasks that you have to achieve when you're doing this. It's amazing. You get free accommodation. It's great. It's fantastic. And, you get to explore so many beautiful places, but there is a responsibility that comes with it. And I think that if people don't have that mindset going into it, it can be a negative experience. And as we know, the negatives always come out more so than the positives in the media. They're the things that are going to shine bright rather than the good news. But we're here to say that there is the goods of it, and it is a great experience, but you do have to have that right mindset.
You're absolutely right. I couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely.
Now, Beth, can I ask a question from the left field as a guy? Does solo traveling interfere with your romance, your love life?
Does it make it better?
Listen, I think it makes it better, but it could have some interferences for sure. I'm sure there's a lot of broken hearts somewhere that will tell me that it's interfered.
Love it.
I think it just gives you a little bit more openness when you travel to, meeting new people. Yeah. We're of a day and age where we have the internet as well, which is great. So you can really meet anyone from around the world these days. So I think it's just putting the internet into real life. And I mean, maybe one day I'll find someone who loves pet sitting as much as me and can come along with me for the ride.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You make sure you let us know about that story, my friend. Yeah. Hey, what's on the horizon for the year to come for you?
Well, I actually have kept my calendar open for once for the next 6 months. I'm kind of seeing where it goes. I have a lot of steady clients that I like to make myself available for to sit with. But I'm seeing, more people are turning to using house sitting in really great locations. So I want to be a little bit more open to that and to seeing if I can travel to some new places that I haven't experienced before. But definitely still house sitting. There's no plan of stopping that anytime in the next 6 to 8 months. I'm here for the long ride.
That's lovely. Hey, Beth, did you start using a service like Trusted House Sitters, for example, and do you continue to use paid services, or are you now a mix of social media, paid services, referrals? Yeah.
Yeah, I used Trusted House Sitters when I first began, and I still do use it quite frequently. But I also use a lot of Facebook community pages, whether it be Facebook house sitting pages, my local Canadian community pages are really great, and also a lot of Australian Facebook pages to Australians in whatever country we're in.
Yes,
I still continue to do it as an exchange. I still don't take any financial compensation for it. I'm sure lots of people think that there's an opportunity there, but for me, it's just about the accommodation. It's about the relationships I form. It's about the experience more so. So I stay away from those kind of sites. But yeah, the Facebook pages and Trusted House Sitters are really great resources, and tell people to tell their friends. Word of mouth is even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we look at it like that too. We love the experience and the people that you meet in the community. And the pets, like we were living in London for 6 or so years and couldn't have a dog then. And that's how we ended up actually finding house and pet sitting, because we were stalking animals on the street. Respectfully. Yeah. So it just gave us
always.
And then it opened up things. So yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Totally feel you there.
So how can people follow you online? You're living an amazing life.
Yeah, where do we
Super
find your
jealous.
adventures?
We can't wait to get back over there. Do you have any sort of websites that people can follow you on social media?
Yeah, I'm a big social media user, as everyone my age. So I do have Instagram, and then I do have a TikTok, which I've started to post more regularly on at my friends' request, because they love seeing the videos of my chaotic lifestyle as I'm trying to wrangle 6 dogs and catch buses in foreign countries.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well, we'll make sure we get the links and we'll drop them with the podcast and the YouTube episode. Absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Very cool, Beth.
You're a ray of sunshine, and we can see that you're, enjoying what you do, and you are an inspiration to other people who are doing this. So thank you very much for sharing just a snippet of that with us today.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for joining us on the Freedom and Four Paws podcast. This production has been inspired by our awesome Facebook community. Join the group by searching Pets and House Sitting, Travel and Digital Nomads, or find the group via the link on our Facebook page, Travel, Live, Learn.
This podcast is brought to you by TravelLiveLearn.com. Visit the site today to find out more about this podcast, access show notes, and sign up to our mailing list for free house and pet sitting application templates, guides, and a 25% off registration code for trusted house sitters.
If you love this content and want more of it, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favourite podcast service. You can find us on YouTube too. Look up Travel, Live, Learn. Until next time, give your pet a pat from us and say yes to that next adventure.